Hi, my name is Phil Fearon, and this exercise shows how you can simply use XSLT with a couple of XPath extensions to generate a set of Word 2010 documents. We start off with a simple XSLT style sheet. This has got a couple of extension functions which are update entries and XML entry. This style sheet is used to transform an input file which is formatted using the OData standard, and this describes a set of employees. The style sheet also references a Word 2010 document that is used as a template. When this style sheet is processed using an XSLT processor, it results in a set of Word 2010 documents, and each document has data for one of the employees in the data set. Right, to describe the template that we're using in a bit more detail, this Word document comprises a single table, and in that table are 3 columns. Now the second column has got a set of cells that we need to update with data found in the OData formatted input file. And then in the third column there's a graphic image that needs to be imported from a base64 data that is also embedded within that OData formatted file. So when we save the Word document, Word documents conform to the Open Packaging Conventions standard, which is essentially a zip file with a number of embedded folders and XML files. So just to show the structure that we're interested in, we start off at the top level with the zip file. Within that is a Word directory, and within that Word directory is a file called document.xml. So this is the key XML file that the template is going to be working with, and it uses an identity transform on this to embed the data for that table. Also within that Word directory is a further media subdirectory, and that has got the image file that we need to insert as well. The most significant part of the XSLT style sheet in this case is a call to update entries. This is an XPath extension function, and it takes 2 arguments, zip and output. So the zip argument is in fact an XML element as shown here, and this XML element describes in a declarative way the structure of the Word 2010 template, but in fact it just needs to describe the modifications that are being made to it. And the second argument is simply a URI pointing to the file location for the new modified Word 2010 document. So I'm just going to explain in a bit more depth how this file element is used. So that's for the first argument. So within that file element there's an attribute called href, which actually points to the Word template. Then within that file element there's a number of sub-elements that actually correspond to the structure of the zip package that you're modifying. So at the first level we have a directory named Word. Within that there is a file called document.xml, and we're outputting XML to this file, hence the output attribute. Now also within that directory element there's a further element that corresponds to the media directory, and that has an entry within it as well which corresponds to the image file that we need to insert. And this is actually taking base64 and converting it into a binary file which is then saved within the zip package. You'll also see that there's an offset attribute. That's just down to the fact that there's a binary header that needs to be removed before saving this to file. Now, going back to the document.xml, this is the key document that has the table within it that we need to modify. So in order to modify this, we first of all need to get a document element for that, and we do that by using another XPath function called XML entry, and this then lets us apply templates to that document element. And then finally, once we have the complete file element that describes the modifications that we're making to the Word 2010 document, we can then call the update entries function. This slide simply shows the XSLT that maps the OData properties from the input file onto the document.xml file. So we have a template with a match pattern that matches all the cells within the second column of that table, and then it's just simply a matter of, for each row within that, we map a separate OData property. So this is the first one, which is employee ID, that maps onto the first row, and I won't do all the others, but effectively each one of the other rows maps in a similar way. This XPath demo was performed using Coherent Web, which acts as a front end to the Saxon XSLT processing engine. So this allows me to simply select my XML data source and then select the XSLT transform, and then I also select the number of times that I want to perform the transform, because the way it's written is for each run a new document is created, so you can control the number of documents created by simply changing the number of times you call the style sheet. And then when XSLT processing is complete, you end up with a set of result documents that is shown here, and this allows you to quickly view the output from within Coherent Web, because it hosts a copy of Word 2010 if that's actually installed on your desktop. So you can quickly go through and look to see how the updates to the template have been performed for each employee. So here we see that there's a new photograph that has been inserted, and all the details for this employee have been modified. We can go through the other employees one at a time to see a new set of data and a new graph. This is a good way of having an integrated method of actually analyzing your results and controlling your processing. Right, and just to summarize this exercise, the declarative nature of the update entries function is both intuitive and flexible. The XML entry function was used to extract the document.xml file from within the compressed zip package, and that proved very useful. Using a Word document as a template with XSLT helps keep separate formatting and layout from the actual logic for mapping data within the templates. Finally, the XSLT with XPath extensions has proven to be well suited for Office Open XML processing. So in this example we were using Word 2010, but you could also be using PowerPoint and Excel, either 2010 or 2007 versions. And then finally, just on resources, XPath is an open community standard, and that's the URL for it at xpath.org. And Coherent Web, the application that provided the front end for the XSLT processing is available from the Qtoric website at qtoric.com.